call Stuart Smith.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, Mr Speaker, I'd just like to comment on the previous contribution and remind the member that the worst day in government is better than the best day in opposition. And Mr Speaker, I suspect the member had something for dinner that didn't agree with her. Mr Speaker, it is a pleasure to have a contribution on the Healthy Homes and Guarantee Bill in the name of Phil Twyford, and I commend the member for having a go and getting it through the ballot, which seems to be quite difficult. I understand that many members haven't had them, have been here many years, so I look forward to having one drawn out myself. However, Mr Speaker, in 1937, Michael Joseph Savage carried a table into the very first state home in New Zealand. They were cold and damp then, and they're cold and damp today. And nothing has changed with that. But what has changed is National has actually got out there and insulated every state house that it can. Every single state house that it can. But that costs a lot of money, and it's not practical in some cases. But Mr Speaker, I'd like to take it back to a personal experience. I lived in a cold house for quite some time when I was starting out. And Mr Speaker, it was cold and it was damp, and we used to get ice on the windows, but not on the outside. We got ice on the inside. In fact, it was pretty cold. In fact, when my brother stayed with me one time in the cold winter, and we ended up with a bottle of beer freezing under the bed, so it was pretty cold. But we got through it all right. Well, that's living in the country in rural Canterbury. And that's what happens in the winter, it gets cold. But we looked at insulating that house, Mr Speaker, but we couldn't. To try and put insulation in the under the floor, Mr Speaker, was impossible. To try and put insulation in the walls became just undoable. It was too expensive. So what we would have, if this bill was to go through, would be houses in the worst places in New Zealand where the people at the very bottom who are living in those houses would be priced out of the market. It's the law of unintended consequences. It really is something that has to be a lot of thought put into. If you're going to bring in standards, it has to be done in a way that is actually practical. And look, it's great to have good ideas, and I commend the member for that, but a little bit of practicality every now and again would be quite helpful. There are lots of health issues which we've heard with all these sorts of things, but the amendments proposed for the Energy and Conservation Act 2000 and the Residential Tenancy Act 1986 simply won't do what we want, and to try and make houses better for New Zealanders. With those state houses, Mr Speaker, we've, as I said, insulated every one that can be insulated, and now we're trying to get rid of those houses that we can't, and we're getting the opposition really kicking up a stink about it. We're trying to do the right thing for those people that are living in those houses, and we're not really getting any support, which is, what's the end game here? Beg your pardon? No, she didn't hold the purse strings there. Mr Speaker, the one reason why it's so difficult to actually get all these houses up to standard. These designs have changed so much over the time when they have been designed and built, that there is no one standard that will actually easily fix that problem. So, Mr Speaker, it's with I'm not going to support this bill, and we're not supporting the bill, and I do commend the member for having a go, but really just needs to go back and have another think about it. So, Mr Speaker, thank you.